Los Angeles, 1977. The city of angels was gripped by fear. A shadow had fallen over the sun-drenched streets. Young women, once full of dreams, were being found lifeless on the hillsides. They were posed, their eyes forever staring into the void. The killer, or killers, became known as the Hillside Stranglers. This is their story, a chilling tale of depravity, terror, and the long road to justice. These weren't just murders, they were acts of unimaginable cruelty. The victims, all young women, endured horrific torture before their deaths. The city held its breath, united in fear and desperate for answers. Who were these monsters preying on the innocent? The police worked tirelessly, following every lead, every whisper. The pressure mounted with each passing day and each new victim. This wasn't just a case. It was a race against time to stop the nightmare and bring the perpetrators to justice. Behind the horrifying crimes were two men, Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi. Cousins by marriage, they were an unlikely pair. Yet together they embarked on a terrifying spree that would leave a permanent scar on Los Angeles. Buono, older and more domineering, was a skilled auto upholsterer with a dark side. Bianchi, younger and more impressionable, presented a facade of normalcy as a security guard. Buono, with his piercing gaze and imposing physique, exuded an air of authority that often intimidated those around him. Bianchi, in stark contrast, possessed a boyish charm and seemingly harmless demeanor, making it all the more difficult to reconcile his appearance with the monstrous acts he committed. Their differences, however, seemed to fuel their deadly partnership. Buono, the dominant figure, found in Bianchi a willing accomplice, eager to please and easily manipulated. Together they formed a lethal combination, their twisted desires feeding off each other, leading them down a path of unimaginable darkness. Los Angeles in the late 1970s was a city of contrasts. The glamour of Hollywood and the promise of the California dream were juxtaposed with a darker underbelly. The Sunset Strip, once a beacon of music and freedom, was becoming increasingly synonymous with drugs, vice, and a sense of unease. It was against this backdrop of societal change and growing unease that Buono and Bianchi began their reign of terror. The city, buzzing with life and a sense of limitless possibility, would soon become haunted by their crimes, the fear palpable in the air. The once vibrant streets, filled with the dreams of hopeful starlets and the carefree spirit of youth, now held a palpable tension. The darkness that had always lurked beneath the surface had risen, casting a long shadow over the city of angels. Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi's paths to becoming the Hillside Stranglers were complex and intertwined. Their shared history as cousins created a bond, albeit a dysfunctional one, that would ultimately lead them down a path of destruction. Buono, with his history of petty crime and a volatile temper, exerted a strong influence over the more impressionable Bianchi. Their relationship was a toxic mix of power, control, and twisted desires. Buono, the architect of their crimes, used Bianchi as a pawn, manipulating his insecurities and need for approval. Bianchi, hungry for acceptance and a sense of belonging, found a warped sense of purpose in their gruesome partnership. It was a bond forged in darkness, fueled by their shared depravity and complete disregard for human life. Their crimes, a horrifying testament to the depths of human cruelty, would forever link them in the annals of criminal history. The Hillside Stranglers' victims were all young women, ranging in age from 12 to 28. They came from diverse backgrounds, but they were all lured to their deaths by the promise of something: a ride home, a modeling job, a sense of security. The killers stalked their prey, choosing them carefully, their methods becoming more brutal with each passing victim. Their modus operandi was chilling in its efficiency. They would often pose as undercover police officers, using fake badges to gain their victims' trust. Once they had their victims subdued, the torture would begin, escalating in its depravity before culminating in their agonizing deaths by strangulation. The bodies were then discarded on the hillsides overlooking the city, a macabre signature that instilled terror in the hearts of Angelenos. Each body was meticulously posed, their lifeless eyes staring out over the city, a haunting reminder of the killer's reign of terror. The investigation into the Hillside Strangler murders was one of the largest and most complex in Los Angeles history. Hundreds of officers worked tirelessly, pursuing every lead, interviewing countless witnesses and feeling the immense pressure to stop the killings. However, the case was riddled with dead ends and false leads, frustrating the efforts of even the most seasoned detectives. The police were initially baffled by the seemingly random nature of the killings. The victims came from different walks of life, had no apparent connection to each other, and the crime scenes offered few clues. The only common thread was the method of killing and the chilling signature of posing the bodies on the hillsides. Adding to the difficulty was the media frenzy surrounding the case. The press, hungry for any scrap of information, often published sensationalized accounts, further fueling public fear and hindering the investigation. The pressure to catch the killers mounted with each passing day, pushing the detectives to their limits. The break in the case came unexpectedly, not from a breakthrough in Los Angeles, but from a botched crime in Washington state. Kenneth Bianchi, having moved to Bellingham, was linked to the murders of two young women. His arrest sent shockwaves through law enforcement, ultimately unraveling the entire Hillside Strangler case. Bianchi, in a desperate attempt to avoid the death penalty, turned on his cousin, agreeing to testify against Buono. In a controversial plea deal, Bianchi pleaded guilty to 5 of the murders and provided detailed accounts of all 10, implicating Buono as the mastermind. Buono, maintaining his innocence, stood trial in a Los Angeles courtroom. The trial, lasting almost 2 years, was a media spectacle, captivating the nation with its gruesome details and shocking revelations. In the end, the jury found Buono guilty of 9 of the 10 murders, sparing him the death penalty, but sentencing him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case of the Hillside Stranglers continues to fascinate and horrify, prompting questions about the nature of evil and the motivations behind such heinous crimes. Both Buono and Bianchi underwent extensive psychological evaluations, providing glimpses into their psyche but ultimately failing to provide definitive answers. Buono, a domineering figure with a history of violence and manipulation, fit the profile of a psychopath, lacking empathy, remorseless, and driven by a need for control. Bianchi, on the other hand, presented a more complex picture. Was he a willing participant in the killings, or a mere pawn in Buono's deadly game? Experts debated the nature of their relationship, some arguing that Bianchi suffered from a dependent personality disorder, making him susceptible to Buono's influence. Others, however, maintained that Bianchi was a willing participant, driven by his own dark desires. The question of who was the true driving force behind the killings remains a subject of debate. The Hillside Strangler case left an indelible mark on Los Angeles and the national consciousness. The fear that gripped the city during the killer's reign of terror led to a climate of paranoia and mistrust. Women were afraid to walk alone at night, and the once vibrant city took on a somber tone. The case also had a profound impact on law enforcement, highlighting the importance of interagency communication and the need for more sophisticated investigative techniques. The use of DNA evidence, still in its infancy at the time, would later revolutionize criminal investigations, but its absence in the Hillside Strangler case served as a stark reminder of the limitations of forensic science at the time. The case continues to be a source of fascination for true crime enthusiasts and a chilling reminder of the capacity for human cruelty. The legacy of the Hillside Stranglers is a complex one, a cautionary tale that continues to resonate today. We must never forget the victims, the terror they endured, and the lessons learned from this dark chapter in criminal history. What are your thoughts on the complex relationship between Buono and Bianchi? Do you believe Bianchi was truly manipulated, or was he a willing participant in their horrific crimes? Share your reflections on this haunting case. Please like, comment, and share this video to support our channel and stay updated with more true crime stories.